Hello guys and welcome to my FIFA channel. Today we're going to discuss about 10 FIFA career mode tips which are relatively unknown and a really good help.
Well, okay, the first tip is a different type of scouting. And as we all know, the regular method for scouting takes a pretty long time to give you reports, and depending on the star, the judgment and the experience levels of your scouts, then the players you get will not be as good. This is why I've come up, or at least found out, a method for scouting that at least works in the first maybe 1 or 2 seasons of the game. And what you need to do is you need to go to customize, edit teams, club transfers. You pick any team, go to detail, and just change the min overall and the max overall depending on what you are looking for. And you also have to put the position you want to strengthen, the age as well. And then you can find some targets, and you can also see their stats, how the players look like, what's their acceleration, what's their sprint speed, and even more. And once you go to career mode, you can just look for those players. And that's a really helpful way. The second tip is how to easily get a player's scout report on time. And this can work for many occasions. In the video, where it's not really a hurried time. It's not like I have any match or any sort of hurry to get a player, but this is just to show you in case you have a match coming up or the transfer window is already closing and you want to make a transfer and you don't believe that you will get the player's scout report on time. This is a method you can use in order to attain the necessary information in order to buy the player. This way you can get his wages, his value on time, and you can know what to offer to the player. So what you basically do is you start scouting a player, sim the save before you start simming, then you sim until the scout report is ready. Once you have the information about the player, you take a look at his wages, if you like his stats, what his value is, what you might need to offer. And once you have that information, you log back on before the sim, and you can go ahead and place an offer for the player, place an offer for the wages of the player if you like the player, and you can buy the player in time, really that same day you started the scout. Tip number 3 is delegating transfers and contracts. This can be very useful because I have found after playing a lot FIFA 20 that usually when you go to negotiate for yourself for a player, even just to the club directly his fee, or to the player when you step in to negotiate his wages, they tend to be really high. They tend to ask for signing bonuses, release sell-on clauses and much more, and they do not tend to accept an acceptable offer. They always tend to seek for more. However, this is not usually the case when you delegate these transfers. Usually when you delegate to buy a player, you can get a better deal. You can set the max price you're offering, you can set the min price you're offering, and this also works for the wages. Most of the times when you delegate the wages of a player, he will not ask for signing bonuses or other type of bonuses you need to include in his contract. And it is much easier because you don't lose time. If you don't have enough time or you are short on time, you can win a lot of time that way by delegating and not entering yourself to the negotiations. So it is a pretty useful tip, I would say. Here we can see that I got Tonali at a really decent wage, no signing bonus. And this does not only apply for buying players, but also for negotiating contracts for your own players. Usually when you delegate the contracts, there will be no release clause usually, and the wages can be smaller than if you negotiate for yourself. And if you don't like the terms, you can go in and negotiate yourself, so you can't lose there really. Tip number 4 is looking out for release clauses. And this really is a massive facet of career mode. Looking out for brilliant release clauses, like here we can see Braut Erling Haaland's release clause is a bit above his value, but he's young, he has potential, and in a few months he will be worth a lot more than his release clause. And that's not a really good deal, but you can find massive deals with release clauses, really massive deals. You have to be on the lookout for release clauses. You can look for release clauses on a position that you want, and release clauses are really special once you're a few seasons into career mode with any team. There are some massive deals waiting to be taken, so you have to be for the lookout. Once you're 3-4 seasons in, you can really just look for release clauses on any position, and you found massive deals. Players worth 3 million release clause for players whose value is 30 million, something like that. Especially look for release clauses on young players, as clubs do not tend to update those release clauses. And here we can see we have snatched up Erling Braut Haaland, which is a massive signing. But really look into release clauses once you're a few seasons in. Look for release clauses on young players on any position that you want, and do some scouting there, because you can find massive deals. Tip number 5 is swapping old players in your team for young players on other teams. Here we have an example with the Milan team. I will be swapping Bonaventura, a 29-year-old center midfielder, for Sandro Tonali, 19-year-old central defensive midfielder with a massive potential. And even though right now Bonaventura is worth more, and they might ask for a bit more money, once you develop the young player, you can really get yourself an amazing deal. This is not the best deal possible in swapping old players for young players. This is just an example, but if you find the correct player, you can maybe swap them for a fringe player, an old player you don't really use a lot. Tip number 6 is finding regen players. Basically, a regen player is when a player retires in FIFA, there is a new player that plays in his same position, has similar potential, but is extremely young. That player is created by the game and he's added to FIFA. Here we can see Zlatan Ibrahimovic is about to retire on career mode. He's on the verge of retiring for the Milan team. As you can see, he is really important for the team. So looking into other Swedish players on Serie A right now, we will see that we cannot find any. This is prior to Zlatan Ibrahimovic's retirement. So at the end of the season he retires, but hasn't retired yet. And there will be no other Swedish striker in Serie A, young Swedish striker in Serie A. And here we can check that. And we can see there is only Dejan Kulusevski. And there was only one other player, and he's a real player from Parma. However, once we go back, we can, in the next season, we can see that there is no longer Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the game. He did not leave for any team, he simply retired. And this is when we can look for his region. Another player who plays in the same position has been created and placed into a random Italian team, and we have to search for him. Some indicators about regions are that they are obviously young, they are in the same league as the player who retired, they play in the same positions of the player that retired, and they usually have some stats that are brilliant. They usually have some, sprint acceleration stats, which are not usual for a player on his overall. And you can find the regions for Ronaldo, for Messi, for anyone who after they retire. So here we found the Ronaldo region. And as mentioned earlier on his scout report, we can see that he has really good acceleration, really good sprint speed, and he basically can reach to a similar level as Zlatan in the game. So a Ronaldo region would be an exciting prospect. He could reach the 90s just like his predecessor, which is vital. And it's really cool to look for region players, and it's something you definitely need to do if you are playing FIFA. Tip number 7 is how to stop one of your players leaving once their release clause has been activated. And the example I have is Gianluigi Donnarumma. I intentionally gave him a release clause to show an example. Here we can see that it has been activated by another club, and even though it's stated in the email that you receive, that's something that many people don't know, and you just need to put the player into a new contract that does not include a release clause, and the negotiations with the other club that paid his release clause will be over. In this example I cannot show you because since I gave Donnarumma the release clause, then obviously he can't negotiate another contract so soon, but it works, I promise. Tip number 8 is using the save feature to your advantage. I always like to save before matches, whether I play them or simulate the game, but this works especially when you simulate the game. It makes more sense. And basically you have a really important game and you want to sim it for whatever reason, and you lose the game, like right here. And what you need to do is just leave without saving and log back into your career mode, and it will be the same match and you can simulate the match again. This is a really useful tip because it happens a lot when you simulate matches, where you just simulate a match against a lower division side or whatever, and you win the match, but your best player has a 6-month injury or whatever, and this is just not very good for you. So this is really useful because you have the option to simulate the match again until no players are injured, until you win the match, you draw the match, or whatever you expect. This prevents injury and also gives you key points in matches you know you would win if you'd play, because as we know, the simulating mechanism is not all that great. It's really odd. Sometimes you get red cards, a lot of injuries. It's really weird, more than if you would play. And here we can see I attempted this simulation a lot of times. That's usually not the case, but eventually it will work. The odds are with me. And yeah, so simulating matches or playing matches, always saving beforehand will never hurt you. It's always beneficial, and here we can see that I finally take the win. So yeah, that's basically tip number 8. Tip number 9 is useful catalog items to buy. And when you right click the cursor, you'll find in career mode a lot of really useful options. You can scout a future star, you can have a financial takeover, you can even buy the manager career mode focus training if you're playing as a player on your career mode as well. So basically scout a future star, it gives you one player with great potential for the future. Financial takeover, it's like a billionaire allegedly buys the club and you get injected new funds. You can have an international manager offer, and what I found is that your nationality of the coach you have, that's always what you get, so keep that in mind. But these are useful for various different scenarios on FIFA, and you should really look into those whenever you can, the restart button and the edit player as well. The final tip, tip number 10, is one that I believe is extremely useful, one that I don't really think people know, and this is how to get more potential job offers. So here you can see I'm looking for a job and I have these teams and I'm not really interested in any of them. So what do? I quit the career, and I did save. You have to look at that. When you save, it does not work. So the first time I saved, I logged back on to career mode and the teams will be the same because I saved. And yeah, that's really useful whenever you want to get out of a club, you don't seem to find a club you're interested in. This can really work. Here we can see that basically the same teams are here. You see Atletico, Torino, Udinese, the same teams. However, this time I did not save, and once I log back onto my career mode, I will have a different set of options to choose from. You can do this about 2 times on the same day of career mode. Usually doesn't work more than that, but you can skip a few more days and you get different offers. So we can see now I have Arsenal and English clubs looking for me, and this is a great tip if you want to get out of your club. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please let me know in the comment section if you think I should keep posting videos like this, different kind of FIFA 20 videos. Any feedback is fine. Again, thanks for watching. See you another time.